What's up?
Hi.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Um, I saw two things this week that were like super. I just I couldn't turn away from either of them. So I actually watched. I watched the entire Candace Owens interview with Briana Ivy,
Mm-hmm.
a trans woman, and it was it was actually very enlightening. And I I mean, I knew most of what she was talking about, but I don't think Candace did.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw how open and kind of vulnerable Candace was to listening to Brianna, I just couldn't help but keep watching and realizing that people who might be vocal about transitioning children, they're vocal about that, but that doesn't mean that they don't understand and aren't compassionate with the story of the person and the actual person instead of just this agenda that people are upset about.
Mm-hmm.
And that then right after that, maybe 3-4 days later, I think you watched it too, most of it, right? Escaping Twin Flames,
Yep.
which I always take documentaries on Netflix with a grain of salt. But
Right. Right.
but also that one, because Twin Flames is absolutely a cult. I don't care what you say. It's a cult
Mm-hmm.
with really charismatic leaders, and it's actually still in operation. I would bring up their Instagram, but it's too weird and too uh I don't know, sexually, it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they have a Facebook page. I don't know what this documentary has done since it came out, what it's done to them. But it just anyway, it's weird. I'll explain the whole thing as we get into it. But the Candace Owens one was Briana Ivy, who is a male that transitioned into a female at a fairly young age. The Escaping Twin Flames is getting women, mostly the ages of like 25 to 45, to transition into men because they ran out of biological men in the group.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, what's happening is the difference between the reasons that men transition and the reasons that women transition. So that was the connection I made between the two. I was in my head, oh my gosh, what is happening? And it's our young girls too. I mean, I know we talked to Kai, a week or two ago, and he transitioned later. So
Mm-hmm.
he actually went through the process of being an adult, going through puberty, um, and making all those decisions kind of for himself after, he was 18, 19 years old. So that was a little bit different. But did you see the Candace Owens interview?
I did. Yeah. One after you mentioned it, I did watch the whole thing, and I agree with you. I think seeing Candace in that light was very insightful. And I believe that she um was very respectful when she was asking questions, and it didn't come across as disrespectful. It didn't come across as pushing an agenda. It didn't come across as shame or anything like that. You could genuinely see that she was asking questions, and the comments that she would make in response to some of the answers, that I forget the trans woman's name.
Briana.
I was going to say
Yeah.
Either Brianna or Brittany. That Brianna was answering her, like she really listened to the answers, and again, the only responses that she said were like just very, I think, just a different side to see her. And I think
Well,
it was very cool to see
you could
that.
tell how vulnerable Brianna was. She really told her entire story With I have nothing but respect for her with no fear. No, well, I'm sure there was fear, but
Mhm.
and there was shame. You could tell she felt ashamed that she put her family through this, that her family spent all this money, that her mom, you know, that that age old thing that she was scared that she would lose her son.
Mhm.
You can either have a dead son or an alive daughter. And
Mhm.
so the mother was completely supportive of her son at the time.
Mhm.
And it just, I think when Candace heard that, it kind of broke her heart. It was like, hey, parents aren't out here trying to hurt their children.
Mhm.
There's actually a real belief that I I think I think doctors and big pharma, I think big pharma is a big part of it, but I I think the money making machine is trying to scare parents into supporting their kids into making a decision that they're too young to make.
Mhm.
Because Brianna talks about the consequences now of having transitioned, and she transitioned all the way.
Mhm.
You know, she cut her penis off. They tried to make a vagina. They tried multiple times actually, because the first two didn't work. They talk about how painful that it was.
Yeah, and the way that the surgery that she got wasn't even meant for that. Wasn't it meant for something else?
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
wasn't even meant for.
And she went back to her doctor multiple times and was just like, he was like, "Oh, go ahead, go get this second surgery, go see a specialist." And then she went to the specialist and this
Two
yeah,
different ones, and
and
they both said the same thing. There's no way that I
yeah,
can do this
we're gonna
because
kill you.
it
It'll
was
kill
a
you.
yeah, it was supposed to fix the first
Yeah.
surgery. The part for me, and I loved that when you had Kai on too, and one of the big questions for me in that conversation with him was when Brianna talks about going to the clinic for the first time and speaking to therapists and or psychologists or whoever is their counselors. It was like a page of questions, 30 minutes tops, and that's it, for her. And
Yeah.
I just, to make such a life-changing decision to be made in 30 minutes of professional support, supposedly professional support. And that was why it was a big question for me with Kai. Like, how many times did you talk to somebody? How many times did
Yeah, and
you?
I mean, even for me in my mind, the amount of times that Kai talked to somebody wasn't enough. Should have been more.
Mhm.
For a longer period of time, way more months than
It goes back to my big belief, which is it's not. I'm not saying that because I don't know what it feels like.
right.
I was born a woman, am a woman, have always felt like a woman, whether I'm a tomboy or not. Like I have never felt like I didn't belong in the body that I was given. I don't know what that feels like. I also believe that there are hundreds of steps to be taken between the first feeling and the surgery if you choose to do it. I just believe that there's so many more steps that need to be taken, and there are years worth of therapy and counseling. And I don't know why that's such a bad word. Like it's such a bad
I
word to
know.
be in therapy. There's such a bad um you know taste in your mouth,
Stigma.
yeah, and
Yeah.
stigma to like go talk to a counselor or whatever. And I just feel like for a life-changing decision,
Yeah, that
it
goes
should
to
be it should be longer, because we've heard a lot of stories now. Individuals are brave enough to come out and say the aftermath of what they've been through. And one of the things across the whole board when it comes to most of them is that they wish that they had just waited. Not saying that they still wouldn't have gone through with it, but they wish that they would have waited and had more conversations about it, and learned more about it and educated themselves more
well,
about
that
it
speaks to
before.
instant gratification, right?
Mhm.
All kids want to be instantly gratified. They want the candy now. They want the ice cream now. They don't want to eat dinner first. They want, you know, everything's now with kids. That's just how they are.
And some adults too.
Yeah, and
It's okay to change your mind, but with something like that, that's not a small thing to change your mind on. It's not like whether
but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Do the work first.
Mhm.
You have to do the work first for everything else. You have to do the work first for driving, for
Mhm.
for going into the military, for getting freaking married. We even had counseling before we got married so we could get married in the church that we wanted to
Yeah.
get married in. And I don't understand why it has to be instantaneous.
Yeah, that's always the part that rubs me the wrong way, is everything is rushed.
Yeah.
And if you don't follow suit right away,
right,
then you're a bad parent.
right.
Then I mean, and I know I use this example and I know people are gonna be like, well, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. But like, take our son, for instance, when he was diagnosed with ADHD, the first thing the doctor was like, do you want medicine? No, I'm not. I'm not putting medicine in my 6-year-old. Like, I'm not going to put medicine so he sits still.
I mean, at the time he was 3 or 4. He wasn't even 6. It was
a couple. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I'm not gonna, if he comes to us when he's older and is like, mommy, I'm really having a hard time in school, then we will take the precautions that we need and talk to enough people and see the doctors and have conversations about it before we just make this big decision to start pumping him full of medicine. So he'll sit down?
Yeah. Yeah. And Briana she's sad now. Right? Like she's super sad at this point. She doesn't know what to do. She's in constant pain.
Not anymore. The pain has gone away since.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. Yeah.
She kept trying. She
said it was.
She kept trying to stretch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But during that was very painful for her. But
maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, my understanding is that by the end of the interview, she was saying that, because Candace did ask her, like, are you in as much pain as you were? And she's like, no. And I think that she
yeah, there were a lot of side effects that she had to go through with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so
and I also,
can we pump the brakes a little bit? Can we just slow it down a little bit? No one's saying that trans people don't exist or that, but can we pump the brakes? Can we kind of help our children, guide them, be there for them, be supportive without helping them make massive decisions that could affect the entire rest of their lives forever.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, go through the steps, go through all the steps, hit 20, 22, 23, do more steps at that age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The other question I wanted to ask you, what you thought about this too, before we jump into twin flames, but I'm curious about this. I know this is going to be a hard question for some people. They might not like this question, but I just have the question, so I'm going to ask it. What do you think about when, someone says, I feel like I'm in the wrong body? How do you know what the other body feels like?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't know what it feels like to be a dude. I ask a lot of dudes a lot of questions because we have a son.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea what it feels like to be a dude, to wake up in the morning, to have the things that dudes have in the morning, to, I don't know what it's like. How can anybody know what it's like to feel like the opposite gender if you've never been the opposite gender?
The only comparison that I can think of or whatever, or insight that was very helpful for me to start to understand, is when Kai was just explaining that he just felt uncomfortable. He just was feeling uncomfortable with certain things.
But how do you know that that's what that is? I feel like, and be mad at this all you want, but I feel like you don't know what the uncomfortable feeling is. Right? So I was uncomfortable in my teens too. I didn't want to be in a dress. I didn't want to, go to tea parties or whatever. I was uncomfortable at those things. I was uncomfortable in a dress and patent leather shoes and whatever else.
Yeah.
I was uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I didn't know that there was anything attached to that feeling other than I
I
didn't
didn't
want to
wanna
be
wear a
in it.
dress.
Right. And I
Yeah.
didn't want to go to girly sleepovers and I didn't want to go talk about boys.
Mhm.
That's all I knew. I knew
Mhm.
nothing else. There was nothing assigned to that feeling that I had, to that uncomfortability.
Mhm.
There was nothing assigned to that. Now I feel that they're just assigning things to that teenage thing that we all go through. They're assigning things to it now, if that makes sense. Oh, you feel this way, you feel like you don't want to wear a dress. Okay, so you're a boy.
Yes, I agree with you on that. I believe that that message is absolutely being pushed too aggressively, because again, we talk about growing up. I was a tomboy. I wanted to play sports and run around with the guys and, you know, I I didn't want to wear a dress either. I
I just
wasn't the
don't.
girly girl, but I
Yeah,
I I agree with you. I think the message around that now is just not allowing young kids to figure it out and teenagers to kind of go through it. It's like, okay, well, let's throw these labels on you. Let's force this agenda on you.
because if my kid wants a kitchen set and wants to play kitchen, and he does like to stand and cook with us sometimes, does that mean he wants to be a girl because that's
Mm,
girl things? Or maybe he wants to be a chef, which happens to be a very manly, respected profession.
right.
And
Mhm.
so I just feel we're so quick to assign.
Yes, I agree with that.
That's
I do
that's
agree with
kind of
that.
what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
We didn't have that as kids. That wasn't the number one thing. My parents weren't, or my grandparents weren't looking at me and saying, "Hey, she wants to play basketball. She wants to wear Michael Jordans. She wants to wear sweatsuits.
Yeah.
Oh, she wants to be a boy.
No.
Okay, let's make that happen for
Yep.
her."
Yep.
No one did that then.
Right.
And they're doing it now.
Yes.
And
That's the aggressive agenda that I
that's hard for me.
and rushing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and rushing. Stop rushing everything. You know what I mean? Like let our kids just be kids and
And I also don't appreciate the whoever is running these agendas, whether it's big pharma or uh, whatever, doctors, insurance companies, because they make a ton of money when kids want to
yeah.
transition and whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate them trying to scare the crap out of us in order to get this done either.
Mhm.
Hey, give us a minute. Let us be there for our kids. Let us make the decisions that we want to make for our kids. And I think it's easy to put that fear in us as parents because back in the 80s and 90s, and you could probably go to early 2000s as well, parents, there were a lot of parents, obviously, homosexuality wasn't accepted, right? Parents would put their kids out. We disown you. We don't love you. Now you got teenagers running around the street by themselves, having sex to make money, selling drugs,
Mhm.
prostituting themselves, whatever, all these scary things, getting, killed in inner cities and gay bashed. And we had all that, even before the 80s, 70s, 60s, whatever.
Yep.
You can go back, watch all those Boys Don't Cry, all those movies. And so that fear was real and strong and it stuck kind of with our generation and even into Gen X. And that fear is still with us. So now, even though we've come so far and we did so much work to get to where we are, where we can get married and we can adopt and we can, have surrogates and whatever else, that the fear kind of had died down. It was like, okay, now it's okay to tell your parents, it's okay to tell your friends, it's okay to be open, it's okay to be all this. There was very little fear left. So what did they do? They just pushed a whole nother agenda that created more fear. So now these parents that are my age and a little bit older are running around going, "Oh my gosh, my if I don't transition my kid's going to kill himself.
Mhm.
My daughter's going to kill herself."
Mhm.
And so that's just the fear all over again. And I do not appreciate it. I
Well,
don't,
well, I mean,
because it's not fair. We got over this already.
yeah,
We got over it.
how do you make people a group of people move really fast? You scare the fuck out of them.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
scare the shit out of them.
The jab.
Like, yeah, you scare the shit out of them.
Yep. And
you're going to get them to move. I mean, I don't know. I guess we're feeling a little froggy today because this statement's going to be a pretty big statement that I'm going to have too or whatever. I think it's very reckless that these doctors are taking on a big responsibility that they don't want to take care of them afterwards.
Yep.
And I think that goes back to this whole feeling of like, some people, and you want to believe that most people become doctors because they sincerely want to help people. But so many doctors out there, so many counselors out there, so many therapists out there. It's like, how fast can I make money? How fast can I make money? And I can even attest to, when we were trying to get pregnant, I went through so many doctors. I had so many people that were touching and poking and prodding and needles and all type of stuff and examining me and helping me and whatever. I didn't feel a connection to any of them. And I'm going through one of the most difficult times in our life, trying to get pregnant, can't get pregnant, and I had doctors that would make me go through the same cycle over and over. And I'm upset and that I'm devastated because we cannot get pregnant. We cannot get pregnant. And you have doctors that very much just toss you to the side and, okay, try again next month.
Yeah.
And there's no consideration and there's no understanding and there's no sense of, a connection or anything to try to make someone feel good. And then take this situation, for instance, and you're choosing to take on this person and you're telling them that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And you're taking on that really big responsibility. And then the minute that you're done and things don't go a certain way, then all of a sudden you're not answering.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it's all about the money.
I don't think, and from what I could tell, there really was no counseling after they transitioned, right? It just
called.
It was like, hey, are you okay? No. Oh, go over here.
Yeah, she called her doctor a couple times. I think she finally saw him either 6 months or almost a year after, I think, and like begged him.
Yeah.
I begged him, please, I need you to see me. No, you're okay. And then he'd push it or whatever. And then finally it was like, please, something is wrong. Like something is sincerely wrong. And all you do is hand her a referral and say, go talk to this specialist. And she goes and talks to the specialist. And this one's like, absolutely not. So, I mean, I have to give props to those doctors that told her no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to put you on my table. You're going to die.
You have some sort of integrity.
Yeah.
They at least had some sort of integrity.
Exactly.
To not try something that.
Yeah.
The risks.
And the other.
And nobody told her either. It's like, hey, the risks are really great on this. These are some big risks that you're taking. No one said that.
No, he showed her off like she was in a glass case.
Yeah.
This doctor literally showed her off like she was in a shop and like having, and I understand that there are residencies and I understand that there are some hospitals that bring their residents in to learn from and whatever. And one of the, like when we were, when I was in labor, that our OBG did ask if I was okay with residents coming in. Thankfully, they didn't show up that night because I probably would have changed my mind.
Yeah.
I don't really know if I wanted a bunch of young kids seeing my vagina and popping a kid out, but I understand that some hospitals have that.
Yeah.
But there's also a way to do it in a way that makes the patient feel as comfortable as possible. I doubt they asked her.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that it was like she just felt like it was just nurses that were coming and checking her. But then you have the doctor coming in, examining her again right after someone else just touched her. And I'm sure she's in so much fucking pain and she doesn't want to be touched and she doesn't want to be poked and she doesn't want tests and she doesn't want exams. I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Not to the extent that she did, but I understand what it feels like to just not want to be touched anymore. And then you have him kind of smirking and being like, look at my work. Look at my work. Look at my work. And using her as a pawn.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And now she's in pain and she's begging you to help her. And what do? You stop answering.
Right.
Because you're a coward.
I still, to this day, I don't think he's answered her.
I doubt it.
Probably.
I doubt it.
And that to me was also brings up, there were levels to transitioning. If you were transitioning into a woman, you might have had your top surgery, probably not the bottom. You probably tucked or, whatever. But that was, and even then they were doing all kinds of experimental shit on people that hurt a lot of the trans community as well, because
Mhm.
they weren't real doctors doing it.
Mhm.
But we used to have, it went from cross dressers to drag queens to, but now anybody can say that they're trans. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to put on makeup. You don't have to shave your face. You don't have to do anything to be trans now. You can just be a woman if you feel like it.
Mhm.
And that's the part that's tough for me. What do you mean? I mean, granted, to me, if I I love Monroe Flame. Like, I follow Monroe Flame on every social media platform because she says it. We fought to be trans women. We fought to not be called cross dressers or drag queens or whatever the case was that was derogatory towards trans women. We fought for the name trans women.
Mhm.
But now all of a sudden it's gotten murky and skewed, and you can just be trans however you want to be trans.
Mhm.
And to me, that's disrespectful to actual trans women and what they have to go through to be a trans woman.
Mhm.
And then saying,
Like, wouldn't that feel like they were mocking you?
right, exactly. Yes. The same way that biological women are saying, hey, no, you don't know what it feels like to be us. You don't know what we go through every day. You don't know, you know what I mean? Being a woman didn't start for me at 15,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So it is. And I think that's where biological women are trying to come from. It does feel like you're mocking us. The same way that these people claiming to be trans that aren't even trying to be a woman in any way, to not trying to look like one, not trying to act like one, not trying to what, isn't that mocking you too?
Mhm.
Shouldn't you feel disrespected by that too? I would. Absolutely would.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. But it was a very good interview. I'll put the link at the bottom. You should go watch it if you have any questions and want to see um Brianna's journey, because damn, it was an incredible.
I feel like it
Yeah,
was
it was
eye-opening.
eye-opening for Candace, that's for sure, and
Yeah.
that girl is tough.
I also feel like it's eye-opening for us as women. I think it's eye-opening for us as mothers, where, you know, like,
You wanna be mad a little bit. It's okay to say it. That's how I feel about it. You wanna kinda be, you're trying to take my space in this world, and it's we wanna be mad about it, right? Or,
no, no,
I
I mean,
I got mad about it.
I'm more sad for her. I'm sad for her that, you know, and I know she says that her mother did the best she could, and it's not a blame on
No, she did.
her mother. That's not what it is. Again, fear is very driving. It very much is. It's also an insight to see a child just wish
Yeah,
that she had waited and just wish that she
slowed
slowed
down.
down, and a child that can feel how, you know, when she was struggling, the weight of bringing her family with her, because all her family wanted to do was not lose her.
Right.
So for me it was very eye opening that way of like just like solidifying or permission granted, I guess you can say, like, to just slow the fuck down.
Yeah.
And that as parents, it doesn't mean that you don't love your children. It just means that
And it's maddening that there are people out there telling these parents that, if you don't make these decisions that are completely irreversible,
mhm.
you don't love your kid.
I don't
Who are these people?
That's the thing. I just don't understand why all of a sudden a 6-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 10-year-old has to be so fucking sexualized. Like, I just don't understand that. I don't understand why we need to have adult conversations with our young children. I
Yeah,
just don't.
me too.
And that agenda and that narrative and that opinion that so many people have about, well, they should know and they should know. You know what? The only thing that my 6-year-old needs to know is that he is the only one that should be touching his penis, and he has privacy in the bathroom, and he has privacy in his bedroom by himself, and he does not get to touch anybody. Like, that's all he needs to know.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to know anything else.
No, I tell people all the time, he doesn't even know what the word gay means. He doesn't know
No.
you and I are gay.
No, he has 2 mommies.
Because telling him that we're gay means we're telling him what our sexual orientation is, which he has
is
no business knowing at
No.
6. He just knows that he has 2 mommies.
Yep.
Some people have 2 daddies, and
Yep.
some people have a mommy and a daddy.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. That's it.
That's all he needs to know.
No, and I was asked by one of his friends about, like, where is his daddy?
Yeah.
You know, and I looked at the mother and I said, you can answer this as you see fit. I'm not her mother.
Right.
You know, I'm not her mother.
Yeah.
It is not my place. And I hold that very sacred. Like, it is not my place to explain dynamics. All I say is that Garrett has 2 mommies.
Right.
That's what I say. But if you choose to want to go into a more depth conversation, like, you need to have a conversation with your mother.
But then it's so quick for everybody to be like, oh, you're transphobic. I even had someone tell me that I don't love myself. I'm homophobic. I don't stand
really?
for my, oh yeah.
Oh.
And it's absolutely, it's fucking ridiculous. What do you mean I don't love myself?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I don't want to parade my sexuality all over town, because I don't feel like wearing a pride flag 95 days. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like 365 days a year. For what? For what? If you know me, you know me. If you don't know me, you don't know me. I don't need to know everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody doesn't need to know. It's, again, it's a personal thing. I don't know why. And even so, even if you do want to wear it on your sleeve, that's fine. Go ahead. I have no problem with it. But don't yell at me and tell me I'm wrong because I don't feel like it.
Yeah. That's where I start to
I don't yell at y'all. Don't yell at me.
That's where I start putting up the boundaries, when people feel the need to tell me how I need to explain things to my 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And I respectfully, it's not your place.
Right.
You know, and that for me is honestly the only thing right now that is, you know, what we need to keep an eye on. There's a lot of things that we can control. And one of the things that we talk about is the fact that Bubs doesn't need to be on the internet. Like,
Nope.
he doesn't need to be on the internet. He doesn't need to have Facebook or Snapchat or TikTok or anything. There's no reason for him to be on that.
Social media is so manipulative, and it's such a mind fuck.
Yeah, we can control that. The biggest thing we have to, you know, be aware of is that when he's out of our sight and he's in school and he's around other adults, you know, kids will be kids.
Yeah, he's gonna find stuff out.
He's gonna find stuff out and whatever. But as long as a parent is not pushing their agenda on my child, or a teacher or a counselor or anybody else, as long as there's not a pushed agenda, because at the end of the day, I'm his mother. You're his mother.
Yeah.
You know, I just let us parent, you know, and if there's something that comes up, we are an open book. We are open communication.
And I get it for the kids. That's kind of what I was trying to say before. I get it for the kids that don't have that kind of home life.
Of course.
Right? There are kids that are absolutely going to go out and need, you know, the shelters, the LGBT shelters that you know, the places to go for youth whose parents don't understand and just chuck them out on the curb.
And I don't think that is bad.
No, me either.
I don't think it's bad.
I'm not saying that either.
Again,
right.
There's plenty of steps to take before we start doing irreversible things.
Yeah.
Those growing up for me,
those shelters always used to be good because it used to help kids figure it out.
That's what I was going to say.
It used to help them get on their feet, help them get their GEDs, help them do all these things that you need to survive in this world.
Yep.
It wasn't like, hey, let me manipulate the crap out of you and fill your head with crap you might not be thinking about, but now
Right.
you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I went to a couple support groups when I was coming out and realizing that I was gay, and was because I came out much later and was
yeah.
all over the place and had so many different feelings and whatever. And when I went to those, it was a very like safe, nurturing place where we just were sitting around and talking and just having a conversation. There was no agenda. Like the adult counselors were not pushing anything on us. It was like, okay, so you said this. What does that mean? Can you explain that more? And like they would share, give some advice and how could you do this? And honestly, for me, it was a lot of like just navigating being in a relationship with a woman. That's really what it was like.
To me, that was a time frame where the pride flag used to mean something. The pride flag, you would see it fly over a bookstore, over, a shelter, over whatever, a bar. It was a safe place for, gay adults and gay youth to go to. Now, it might not be safe.
Yep.
And that breaks my heart.
Yep.
Because I remember having, a rainbow sticker on my car,
Yeah.
or,
I used to wear everything rainbow.
whatever, a necklace or a bracelet or something, whatever. And now now it's kind of not safe, but you don't want anybody to know because it's gone so far now, and they've shoved it down everybody's throat so much that now it's almost, it's getting to a point, if it hasn't reached the point already, that it is unsafe. It is so you got what you wanted. Now everybody's afraid again. So whoever the powers that be that are out there, now you've made it unsafe. And that's sad. And it breaks my heart because I grew up and no, was everybody out yet? No, but no one was looking to hurt you at the time. No one was looking to, the late 90s. Maybe there was a little bit out there still, but it wasn't.
It started to be where there were safer places. I mean, unfortunately, this world is still a very unsafe place in a lot of places.
In general. But also, it was the safest it had ever been in a very, very long time. No one would bat an eye.
Yeah. I feel like it's just a really big push and a very big extreme. And, my argument all the time is that I just think that things need to stay age appropriate.
Yep.
That's my biggest argument. That's my biggest.
I saw a child's book. There was a meme with a child's book that was like, when daddy has a baby. And I just exploded inside. Like, you're not, what? What do you mean? I'm not reading this to my kid. Because your daddy can't have a baby. So I don't know
these are adult.
It's a child's book.
These
It
are
literally
adult
is a child's
conversations.
book.
These are meant for adults to be able to understand. Kids can't understand.
You want to be like, it's okay for you to be who you are. And also, literally, it's okay for you to be who you are. You know what I mean? You don't have to change your entire body to be who you are.
And if you feel like you need to, that's also okay.
It is.
Adult conversations.
Right.
It is an adult conversation to be had with adults when you're an adult.
Yeah.
I
know.
That
was tough. We did feel froggy today. That was a very froggy conversation on our part in public. So, but it's a good conversation. And if people aren't, that's the other thing too. If you disagree with me, that's fine. But if you're not willing to have a conversation with me about it and explain things to me, and you just want to come at me and yell at me and tell me I'm transphobic and tell me I'm hateful and tell me, then you know what? You're absolutely not going to change my mind or make me learn anything or help me realize anything, because now I'm shut off and I don't want to talk to you because you look like an idiot yelling at me, instead of asking me, hey, why do you feel that way? Well, I see it this way, and having a normal conversation. And two, well, no, that's pretty much it. But you just look, you look bad, because I'm not trying to say anything hurtful or tell anybody that they can't be who they are. I'm not trying to say that, but we need to have some conversations, and there needs to be some, I don't know, like guidelines,
Well, again,
anything, rules, something.
true change happens when you go through it. When you go, like, if you have someone yelling on this side and you have someone screaming at this side, there's
Nobody hearing you.
yeah, nobody's hearing you. There's no room for growth, because you can believe something and I can believe something, but if you're screaming at me and I'm screaming back at you.
And I understand that these topics are hot. I understand that transitioning is hot. I understand that the alphabet wants us to all just acquiesce to them. Man, you can go do what you want to do. That doesn't mean that I have to. I won't treat you poorly, but that does
Yeah.
not mean that I have to jump in along with you just because I'm gay, just because I'm
I just
a
think
woman, just
everybody's
because
out to I just think everybody's out to attack everybody. And
it's that fear shit. It really is. And they're so afraid of us. I don't know why. Because we weren't even, they were not even on our radar until they put themselves on our radar.
stay away from my kid. That's
Now
all
we
I
have to
say.
start asking questions. Hey, what the fuck is going on right now?
Yeah, stay
What
away
am I
from
listening to?
At the end of the day, the most important thing for us is to protect our kids. So that means the people that he's around, the community that we're in, and parents have a right to that. Parents deserve to do that. And
Yeah, it's infuriating. It's infuriating. And that whole California thing where you can just transition your child without the parents' consent, or you can help them change their name and all kinds of crap, or the state could take away your kid if you don't transition them. Screw that, bro. Oh my God. Let me find out that someone is calling my son like Gina in school without telling me first
Mhm.
and explaining that, hey, your kid's been saying this, blah, blah. What course of action do you want to take? Oh, it's going to be a bad day.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bad day.
Mhm.
We have a right to our own child.
Yep.
You popped him out. No, the state has no right to my child.
I think what that agenda does too, when you have
It just scares parents again. It's just more fear.
But here's the thing. I think I've shared this before or whatever, where I saw a reel where it's like, you don't talk about stranger danger, you talk about strange behavior.
Hey, yes.
And I believe that anytime someone tells you to keep a secret from someone, unless it's like a surprise party or it's a surprise gift, but if there's any adult that's telling a child to not tell their parent,
yeah,
that is strange behavior. That is not okay, because also what it does is it doesn't give the parents the chance to understand and be supportive. Just because, a parent has an initial reaction,
right,
does not mean that they're not open to understanding it. Doesn't mean that they're not open to doing the work alongside their child to support them. And I think what it does is that again, it's that expectation thing. If I don't respond the correct way on the first time, all of a sudden I am stripped away from all my rights of being able to be there to support him. I think that's unfair.
I love that you said that it's not giving parents a choice. And I think that's more geared towards straight parents. I feel like they think if their gay kid comes out to them or whatever, that automatically straight parents are going to be like, oh my God, I can't have you in my house. I can't have you around my other kids. I can't, you disappoint me. But you're underestimating people loving their children.
I'll say, and some parents do.
Some parents will, of course. Also,
as adults, how difficult is it if you're a counselor, for instance, in a high school, and you are helping Michael come out, or he came to you and said, I'm having a hard time. I think I'm gay, and I know that my parents won't accept it. And he talks about it.
Yeah, but
and
wait a minute though. Hold on. Before you get into that though, how often is it though that a kid feels like their parent is going to be mad at them without them even knowing? Right? Like you're so afraid, oh my God, if my parent finds this out, they're going to crush me. You can even take, like, I snuck out of the house one night.
Yeah.
And you get caught and you come home and you're like, I'm dead for the whole world. And your parent just hugs you and like, oh my God, I'm so mad at you right now. but I'm just so glad you're safe and I'm so glad you're home. And
Yes, 100%.
kids
I'm
are
saying,
like that anyway.
yeah, I'm saying that there are those parents that kids know. This kid knows that if I come home and tell my parents that I'm gay, that my father is going to kick my ass. You know what I mean? Like
there are like drunken households or
families
whatever.
like that. So my point being is that if that's the case and the kid decides to go home and tell the parents that he's gay and the family kicks him out or does whatever they do, as an adult, I would hope that it would be a conversation where the adult could reach out to the adult and try to mend the situation. If you're in as a counselor and you're in as a therapist to be supportive and to help teenagers, to help kids, to help adults,
which is the most awful time period anyway.
Listen,
being a teenager.
Listen, take a coach. There's a difference between somebody that's a personal trainer and a coach. When you're a coach, you're responsible for that kid, that person, in class, out of class, during training, out of training, checking in, whatever. You hold that title, you hold that responsibility. And I would think that as a counselor, that you would hold that same integrity. You would hold that same support and same priority. So as a counselor, how difficult would it be to have a conversation with the parents and say, I know this is difficult, but I would love to support you. And then if the parent's like, fuck you, it's my kid, I don't fucking need your help, at least you tried.
Right.
At least you tried. But it's when other adults choose to keep information away from the parents that it's not right. It's not right. And again, we're not perfect. Nobody is perfect.
No, parents are going to make mistakes too.
Listen, there are times that Bubs does something and I react to him in a way that wasn't necessary.
You have to settle yourself down. Yeah.
It wasn't necessary. And he's not doing anything wrong. But it's the way that I responded was not the best way to respond. So then what do? We talk about it. We figure it out. And we, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like I'm more worried about strange behavior than anything else. Yeah. Because when it becomes something where, and every message is like that. Every extreme message is like that you see. Yeah. Don't tell your parents. Don't tell your parents. Don't tell an adult. I'm here for you. I'm the only one here for you.
Oh, and that shit on Instagram is gross.
And when you have that for an impressionable kid,
yeah.
And teenager, and someone that you said doesn't come from the best home.
Yeah.
You know, and you have that, or is maybe the awkward kid or the shy kid or the anxious kid or whatever, that if you constantly make him feel that way, that he doesn't have anybody, but you're that one person that he has, of course he's going to lean on you. Of course he's going to look to you for everything. And if you're telling him, don't tell anybody else, that is a problem.
Yeah.
That's a fucking problem.
And you're taking the chance for parents to have a genuine reaction to, right? Like, say your kid is gay and you had no idea. I mean, my grandparents literally knew. By the time I came out to my grandparents, they were like, we knew past
my
the
parents
piece.
didn't know.
Right. So you're taking away the chance for a parent to have a genuine reaction, right? Oh my gosh, I'm so surprised. And the look on their face might not be like, it might be scary or it might be how they're processing, but give them a chance to process. You know what I mean? It might take them a minute, but they will process and be like, this is still my child. This is still... Most of them will. The broken home's fine. I understand. Leaving them out of it. Most parents who just have no idea about gay culture, community, or whatever, and just thought they had 3 kids, they were all straight and just whatever. We're going to walk through life the same way that they did when they were young. And then you find out one of them isn't. You need a minute. That's not unfair to ask of a parent.
Yeah. And stop punishing parents for seeing a future for their kids.
My grandparents asked me a million questions after I came out. But they just wanted to know what world I was living in. What is this? What does this mean? What is it? What are all these words mean? Yeah. And I mean, granted, we didn't have 80% of the words that are out there now.
Right.
But the language that we spoke, the kind of cult, if you will, that we were all in, that we were running around listening to Melissa Etheridge driving Subarus and Jeeps and shit. Like, they wanted to know what that was, and give them a second.
Yeah.
Just
And
give them a second.
There's a lot of shame around the fact of, tradition, I guess you could say, or roles in a relationship and roles in a family. And, like I said, like, stop punishing parents for seeing a future for their children.
Yeah.
When you have a son and you have a daughter, some families are like, okay, a father is thinking about the day that his daughter is going to get married and walking her down the aisle and becoming a grandparent for the first time and seeing their daughter and
handing her off to the new man that's going to protect her and care for her and whatever.
Exactly. And the son is going to grow up and be the provider and whatever.
Yeah.
And like, stop. And then things are changing. So then initially, like,
then he finds out his son's going to be dancing techno in tight jeans for his entire 20s. But you know what I mean?
But the thing too,
give him a minute to like process that.
Right. And as much as medical and has advanced, the first initial reaction where any couple comes out as gay is that the parents are not going to be grandparents.
Yeah, that's what they think immediately.
Yeah, and to punish them for grieving that for a second is unfair.
Also, it doesn't mean that you won't.
Exactly, but the initial,
that
initial of like, oh my God, I'm not going to be a grandparent, and maybe that. Because that's the next level. After you become a parent, it's like, oh my God, one day I'm going to be a grandmother.
Right.
Oh my God, one day I'm going to be a grandfather.
Right.
But also we're in a different season of life where there's a lot of men and women that don't want to be parents because they're choosing their careers over having a family and having kids, or just want to be married to their person, have dogs, travel a lot without that responsibilities and whatever. Like, that's also okay too, but to punish a parent because they don't respond
exactly the way you want.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
The exact way, I think, is also that the way that other adults are getting in to be able to change the narrative and push their own agenda.
Oh, your mom doesn't love you. Oh, your dad's mad at you. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because
I think so.
Because it's easier to
control a child if they think that their parents are going to be pissed or don't love them now or whatever. Yeah, of course it is. If you can get a child away from their parents and only talk to you and not talk to the parents, that is that's like the grooming handbook.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and listen, doing the work and looking yourself in the mirror and really being truthful with yourself and with each other, that shit is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And people are not willing to do that. Whereas it's just easier for people to pretend like it didn't happen, to pretend like it's not what it is, to tell you that because I'm your parent, that this, that, and whatever. Like, it's easier to do that.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are willing to come and sit and have these type of conversations where it's like, okay, baby, like, we can take when I came out to my parents, for instance. When I came out to my mother cried.
Yeah.
And cried for multiple reasons. And I had to grow with time and realize that there were the reasons of like, it was
fair. It was fair.
The fear that like, oh my God, she's never going to be a mother. And she knew how much I wanted to be a mother.
And you're her only daughter.
I'm her only daughter. I'm her youngest.
Yeah.
And then also being with you, I moved away. I mean, there were so many feelings about that. And then the person that I was with wasn't a great person that I was with, and all those feelings, whatever. And then you have my father, who always had my back.
Yeah,
I knew he loved me, but I wasn't scared to tell him as my father. I was scared to tell him as a Vietnam Marine.
Yes,
who grew up in a very, very conservative family. I wasn't scared to tell him as my dad. I knew he was going to love me, but in that situation, I had two different people that I was looking at. And I had to decide if it was still going to be okay for me to tell him.
Yeah.
And so when I told him, and I said that, I literally said that to him.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not scared. I wasn't scared to tell you as my dad. I was scared to tell you as a Marine. And he's like, I don't understand that. And I was like, Dad, because you grew up different.
Conservative.
You conservative.
And that's what they teach us. They teach us that conservatives hate us. That's literally right out of their playbook. Yeah. I did the same thing. My grandfather was Marine, a Cuban Missile Crisis. And I was too.
Terrified.
My grandmother's very religious and conservative. I grew up very religious. It's
And my father was the one that supported me the best out of every one of
So was mine.
out of my family. Like I had really good friends, but like my family, my
mother was devastated.
My father was the best support across the board, you know. And as you get older, it's like, okay, this one had her feelings, this one had his feelings, and whatever. And everybody's entitled to their own feelings, and that's fine.
That's what they feed you. They just feed you that conservatives are going to hate you.
Yep.
They don't have your best interest. They're all Bible thumping, redneck. Like that's just what you're taught. And it's just not true.
And that's the thing. We all grew up in different times. You know, for instance, my dad's in his 70s. My father grew up in a very, very different time. Racism,
and they're supposed to be the worst.
Like
that age group's supposed to be the worst towards minorities.
Yep. Ugh. And those were the stories that I was given and shared with about who my father was growing up. But the difference was I knew my father always had my back, and I knew he loved me no matter what. And I knew this was going to be another thing that we were going to have to go through, but we got through it and we worked through it. And then the choices that I made following that and the choices that he made following that is where we are today.
Yeah.
He's a grandfather, and he's
you gave him a choice. You gave him a choice. You gave him a choice, your mom a choice, your brother's a choice.
Yep.
And we're a part of all of their lives. Yep. So as long as you give people a choice, 9 times out of 10, they're going to make the right one. And even if they make a wrong one, they'll probably figure it out and correct it and do the right thing. Mm-hmm. Give them a chance.
But the thing is that we're all looking for some sort of community. That's what we want. And whether it's your blood family, it's a chosen family, and we all have our feelings on both, and I just think that the difference is, and you said this, is that more parents than not want to still be a part of their child's community, even if they don't know how.
Yeah.
Even if they don't know how.
I'm excited. We're going to have Kai back on Thursday. Mm-hmm. So that'll be cool. We only get him for like an hour at a pop. So we have to kind of make it a series. So we can ask all of the questions that we want to ask. And he's so gracious, to answer them and share his life. So I'm very appreciative of Kai for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we just have to keep having these conversations. I know we didn't get to Twin Flame, and there's so much more to talk about. This topic isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get back to it soon. Gotta go pick up our child.
Yep.
So, all right. Thanks guys for listening.
Bye.
Deuces.